Hello, hello, hello. There's a bit of a party outside, that's for sure. Okay. I hope everyone can hear me nice and loud. See how this goes. All right, just want to make sure I'm visible. Oh yes, I can hear myself now multiple times when I go into multiple platforms. Okay. There. Turn that off. Okay, I think everyone can hear me, which is great. All right, so we're going to be starting. This is the final one for the year, which is a bit, for me, it's a big thing because I started this whole live stream slash, well, whatever you want to call it, webinars and things like that, beginning of 2024. And I've been doing one, well, I did take about a month off during the summer break because I had to kind of move continents. But other than that, and also set up a new streaming studio to stream from. But yeah, this is the last one for the whole year, and this makes 2024. It's a big year for streaming. All right, let's just finalize everything for the final one. And yeah, we can move on to 2025. All right, so let me turn on this recording. And finally, let's turn on the OBS recording. So I've got technically 3 backups, just in case something happens. And we can take this off, and I think that is kind of it. Let me check my list of stuff that I always need to check. Yep. Oh, nearly forgot one thing. Sorry. Sorry, I just need to... Need to chuck this into blue sky. Yep, going live. Drupal, all right, cool. I think that's it. All right, we're good to go. I think we're finally good to go. All right, let's switch over. Transition to the other side. No, that's just transitioning scenes in OBS because I use OBS for this stuff. All right, let's get into it, shall we? All right, cool. So hello and welcome to this live stream where we are going to learn how to track events in Drupal. Now, when I say events, I don't mean an event like a offline event where people get together for conferences and things like that, or an online event, like right now. If you are watching this live, what I mean by event is transactions and events in your Drupal site. So things like when config changes, when users log in, when when content is updated, modified, and this is very, very important if you allow logged in users or, anonymous users that just register on your site into your Drupal site. All right, we have a hello from Switzerland. Hey, how you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today I want to take you through two websites, and we'll also look at sorry, no, not two websites, two modules, and we'll also look at the database logging module that comes with Drupal core. And I'll also give an honorable mention to another module, which I'll mention, but we're going to take a deep dive in the next live stream because I tried to fit it in, but I was like, you know what? This actually deserves its own stream. Okay. So the first module that we're going to take a look at will be the core Drupal module. So when you install Drupal, you do get this DB log. I don't know if it's still called Watchdog. It used to be called Watchdog. Don't. I think it's changed. I'm showing my age when I say it used to be called Watchdog, but essentially it just tracks events directly in the database. And so um, it's a great module. It's always there because it's part of core, and it's always good to just have it on locally, maybe not in production, depending how much traffic you get. But we'll take a look at that module first. And then we're going to take a look at events login. Now, this is a popular one that has a fair number of installs. And I do believe that this is events. No, that is not it. It is called event log. There we go. Sorry, let me start that again. And then we'll take a look at events log track. There we go. That's the one I was looking for. And this one actually tracks things such as create, update, and delete operations for comments, files, groups, media, menus, and this is all tracked within submodules. So what you need to do is essentially create install the module and then install the correct submodule for that bit of functionality. And you can see over 3,500 installs, supports Drupal 11, recent release, so we're good to go. That's kind of the thing that I do these days. Whenever I check out new modules, it's always like, all right, let's have a look and see. All right, it supports Drupal 11, which is great, because as of this recording, Drupal 11 is the latest version of Drupal, and there's been a release recently, even better. So that's kind of like my little tick, tick, tick. And then we're going to take a look at Events Logger. This one does similar things, but it just does it a little differently. And it just tracks, create, update, and delete actions on entities. And it does things a little differently. And we'll take a look at that. And I do want to mention that if you are looking at ways of tracking events in your Drupal site, also take a look at message. Now, I'm not going to cover this module in this video purely because this module is mostly used to just create some type of activity on your site. So if you want to create some type of social network using Drupal, which used to be the rage in 2006, 2008, 2009, back when the social medias became popular. But essentially what you can do is use this module to create some type of activity system in your Drupal site, but it requires a bit of site building. So it's not really used to track events where you can just install it and then just start tracking events. Now, I do want to cover how to use this in the next live stream because I do believe that this is a very powerful module. It's been updated, it's being used, and there's some cool things you can do with it, but it requires its own separate video and not just, 15 minutes at the end. So I'm going to leave it off. But I just wanted to mention it because it is important. If you do want to track specific things, then you can use message. All right, so let's start things off by looking at db log. So here is my Drupal site. It's a stock standard Drupal 11 site as of this recording. And if you install Drupal using the standard installation profile, you will get a module called database login. And that just simply events, and it says here, logs system events in the database. Now, I should preface this by saying that if your website does get a ton of traffic, I do recommend that you use syslog, and that is an actual module, there you go, that tracks the events that Drupal generates, because Drupal does have a standard API for tracking and login events. And so if you have database logging installed, then every single time a module tracks these events, it'll be stored in the database. If you have syslog, it will then get stored in the web server's system log. And that's just easier to manage and maintain, because you can set things up where it automatically goes into some type of separate third-party system so that you're not clogging up your database. Now, to see all the events, all you need to do is click on reports here and click on then recent log messages. Let me just log in. There we go. Sorry, increase the size. And here you can see a bunch of messages that we had. We have some PHP notices and things like that. It's complaining about language settings and things like that. Don't have to worry about that at this point. But you can see here that we have our events, and then under type, we have our different event types, or, user types and things like that. And then you have your severity. You have emergency, alert, critical, warning, info, debug. And then if you want to delete everything, you can just click on this, and then this will go ahead and delete the logs totally. So to test things out, let's open up a new tab and let's create a test article. So if I come along in here and click on test article, test, and click on save, and then we go back here and refresh, we should see a actual content article added test article. And then we can also go ahead and filter by that test article. The other thing, which is very important, is if we do try and log in, let's try and log in, and I'm logged in as an anonymous user. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we've done that. And then if I reset, you can see then failed attempt for admin. This is a great way of just keeping track of everything that's happening on your Drupal site. So if somebody's trying to hack into your website, you can kind of track, okay, for some reason, this user account's getting hit. Let's do something about it. And you can go ahead and make changes to your website. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that if you go to configuration and logging and errors, make sure you set up this database log messages to keep. And you want to leave it as, say, 1,000 or say 10,000 max. Never leave it at all, because that will then keep all the messages. Because I recently, about 2 months ago, I picked up a new Drupal site. Well, I had to set it up, and the database was 600 meg. I was like, "Oh, this is a massive database." And I always like to see exactly why the database is large when I actually import it in locally. And I noticed that there were over 1 million rows in the watchdog table. And so, the simple fix was to just simply clear out that watchdog table, and that means in the database was 50 meg. And there's nothing more annoying than dealing with a large database, especially if you're doing a lot of development, because often you're backing up the database and importing it back in. And if it's 600, 700 meg, It just takes ages to import in. So this is just a nice way of, just keeping tabs on things. Another reason why a database can be pretty full is because of search API. Sometimes if you use a database backend for search API, it can be full. It can be full of data and also just caching as well. Sometimes whenever they generate the cache, when they export the database out, they still keep stuff in the cache tables. But you can actually have a system set up where it truncates the cache table. So yeah, if you're going to use Watchdog, especially on a development site, then make sure you configure this database log messages to keep and configure it to either 100 or 1,000. Very, very important. Now, you can also track a lot of this stuff from Drush, and that is actually very useful. So if we jump over to Drush, I think we search for grep. What is it? It is called, I think, Watchdog here. We have a few options. We can delete it, we can list it, we can show it, and you can also tail it. So things like you can do, what is it? If we do Watchdog list, we can then list out by the actual type or by the severity. So if we were to do, say, content, we can then see all of the content logs. You also have show, that will just show everything. And the other one, which is my favorite, tail. So you can actually track and see when things were updated. So if we come along in here and update this page, you can then see here, yep, it's automatically been updated. And most importantly, we can drop that. Let's go back to Watchdog. If you want, you can go ahead and delete. So what is that? Watchdog, delete. Oh, or what is that? Oh, yes. No options provided. What is it? Watchdog delete? WD. Oh. So this is where you specify. That's right. This is where you can specify. Oh, that's right. Just all. So we go here, Watchdog, and then delete. Well, let me just bring that up to the top so we can see it all. So that'll be Watchdog all. Do you want to delete it? Yes, you can. And that will delete it all. And then if we go into show, we'll see nothing, which is great. So as you can see, you do get a lot of options when it comes to using Watchdog. Now, as I mentioned, okay, Drupal has a logging service or some type of API that all the modules hook into, so they can track errors, notices, warnings, and things like that. And so what I want to do now is actually show you in code how to actually implement all of this, because it's actually very important. If you do a lot of development, then it's pretty important to see how it all works. So what we're going to do is let's jump over to reports, recent messages. Okay. So here we can see no new messages. Okay. Nothing's been added. But if we then go over to our website, and I do have a module right here called a www demo. And what I'm doing is I'm just implementing pre-process HTML. That's it. And we have options here. So let me just uncomment this. So we can call in the logger services using this static method, and then you can simply just pass error, notice, warning, info. These are few of the types. And so this is something that I do when I write a fair bit of custom code. I do try and log as much stuff as possible, especially if you're doing string manipulation and you're dealing with APIs. You want to often track what's coming in from the service. And so you can easily track it this way. So if we save this, and because this is in hook preprocess HTML, it should just work. But what I'll do is let me just double check and make sure that caching is turned off, or it's not going to, or it's not going to work. So now that I've already hit this, so let me just hit that again, it should refresh. No, it doesn't. So let's go back to, well, let's first enable it. That's what we need to do first. There we go. Let's go ahead and enable the module. Very important. If you have them, if you have a module, enable it. We've gone in there, enabled it. Now, well, this should technically work. So we've hit it a few times, and there we go. You can see that a few things have been sent to the watchdog. So these ones, and the good thing is that if you set up the channel, so I believe this is called a channel, but it can be called a message type, it can be called a type, whatever you want to call it. You can actually just add in whatever you want. So often you'll just use your module name and then just throw in if it's an error, if it's a notice, if it's a warning. And so you can see here, things have been added. And then if you click onto it, you see the user, the location, the message as well, and also the host name and things like that. So let's now comment this out. Let's take things one step further and look at a few variables that we can pass in. So this is important when you're dealing with, when you want to pass in untrusted sources. So in the message, we can pass in variables. Now this uses the translation, I think API, I believe, or the placeholders or whatever it's called in Drupal. And I think it's called, yeah, stringable weak, passing context. So essentially you're just passing in these variables. So if you if you put an @ symbol, it's going to escape it. So you can put in, that's probably the safest to use. Then you have the percent, the actual percent, and that's going to emphasize things. And then finally, if you have the colon, that's useful for adding in URLs because it passes whatever values there through the, I think, dangerous protocol function to make sure there's no cross-site scripting and things like that. So it's very important to just make sure that you clean your URLs if you are going to show them like this. So if we now save this and come along in here, refresh, we just need to refresh any page. And we're going to probably hit it a few times. You'll see that we get the emphasis and he also escapes that stuff. So that won't show an alert. And also this is perfect for URLs. So if you want to display a link somewhere, so you can put in an href, then you would use this colon to just add a link in there. Now, another good use case of using Watchdog, and this is something that I have done in the past, is to actually explode or print out variables. And this is a great way of actually doing it. So what you can do is use the actual debug type and then just print R the variables that you want to be displayed in the actual watchdog. So here we have a basic example where the data is just an array. And so this is something that you might do if you are dealing with an API and you want to have a look and see what the received JSON is. So if I go here, refresh, and then if we come back here and let's just refresh here, we can see database, debug data, array, and then we can see the arrays. Now, this is very basic. What if we were to actually close this off and do the whole thing? Okay, where we just display the whole variables. Now, one thing to be aware of, okay, if you're like, all right, cool, I want to see all the variables, you could actually bring down your site. Sometimes there's just too much information there. And let's see, does this actually fail? Yeah, it does. Because it's just too much stuff getting added. So that's why I recommend to try and put something in there like that. So put in an array like HTML, come in here, refresh. And then we can actually see the array. Now, of course, this isn't, now, to be fair, if this was a massive array or an object, it'll be hard to see, but it's just a nice, simple thing. If you quickly have to just have a look at the array. Now, if you do want to actually see the whole variables, what you can do, I believe it's dump. And I do believe you need to have twig debug turned on, perhaps. A quick look. Yeah, you can do that. And then you can actually drill down and see all the little bits of information. So I'm just going to chuck this in as a nice to have. If you really want to, this is probably the best way of doing it. But I think you do need twig debug on for this stuff. All right, so there is a question. Will you please make a full theming video? Almost nobody does that. I've got a whole bunch of Bootstrap videos about Bootstrap. Yeah, I mean, theming video, it's a whole massive topic in itself. That's probably, yeah, maybe I can look at that. That's actually good feedback. Any particular framework you want, like front-end framework, like Tailwind, or just thinking of ideas or something like that. Anyway, just chuck it in the comments. Or Bootstrap. Well, as I mentioned, I've done Bootstrap before. But yeah, theming is a hard thing. Everyone does theming totally differently. And every site I've worked on does things a little bit different. So that is how you use Drupal's logger service, because everything is then, of course, logged into the watchdog. So let me now just go ahead and comment this stuff out so we can move on. All right, so let's now take a look at events log track. Oh, the comment can, before we continue on. Oh, hello. All right, so Tailwind in either Drupal 10 or Drupal 11. Well, it's going to be 11. Please, nobody does theming with at least a custom module, please. Well, thanks for the feedback, and I'll have a think about it, about theming, because yeah, as I mentioned, like theming is a huge thing. It's a huge part. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. It will be multiple weeks of theming, depending how complex you want to get. And hello to you too, in another hi in YouTube. All right, cool. Let's now take a look at events log track. Now, this is a module that I have used a fair bit in the past. It is a great module because it's a set and forget. You just set it and you forget it. And it's pretty easy to install. All you need to do is go ahead and install the module and simply enable the specific submodule that you want. So a lot of this functionality is handled just by basic submodules. So if you want to track whenever a cache clear was performed, you can do that just by enabling a submodule. So let's start things off by going to our Drupal site. Well, you first want to download it, of course, using Composer. I've already done that. And if we go to extend, and then click on, and then, well, let's filter by, what is it? Events, not events logger, events login. And events log track. So let's enable that. And we'll also enable clear cache to begin with. And well, let's also chuck in config because this config one is actually pretty important. It has saved my, it saved me a few times. And especially when people are like, oh, something changed on the website. Who changed it? Why has this config changed? And when you have this on and you can track config changes, you can straight away see, oh yes, well, this piece of, this view was changed, this block was changed, or something was like that changed. And it's a great way just to keep track of things. All right, so let's go ahead and install them. And so now what's going to happen is it's going to go ahead and, of course, install everything for us. And if we go to reports, we should see event log track. And here you can see our actual events. And straight away, you can see here down at the bottom now, is my head covering it? Well, kind of, but you can kind of still get it. You can see down here, right down at the bottom, that it has tracked a change to the view, the view that actually powers this. And you can straight away see that it has tracked it. So if we go ahead and clear the cache, performance, clear all caches, we should see. Now we can see that, yep, cache has been cleared. Great. If we go to configuration, and let's just imagine we change the site name. Well, and refresh, we can see that site name has been changed. Now, one thing to be aware of is that if you do make a change, so let's go to views and make a change to, say, the homepage. So make a quick change here. Well, let's go back. Let that load up a little bit. Homepage. Then save it. It is going to save the actual event, but you will see that it does show you the whole config YAML. So yeah, just be aware of that. That can be a lot of information that you may or may not want. So it's up to you. But for basic stuff, it is pretty useful. You could actually go in there and just modify this view because this is a view, and under description, I believe, you could probably truncate it a bit and just tweak it. So you can keep track of the config, but you then don't get pages like this, where it shows you absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. Now, if we go to extend and search for events, you do have things like workflow, user authentication. Those ones are pretty good ones that you want to keep and use. And then you have Node. And that one actually tracks logs to the Node system. So let's go ahead and install that. And let's just give that a moment to install. And if we go and update a piece of content, update to, and go to our event logger, you will notice that it doesn't actually work. Now, why is that? Well, because we're using Drupal 11.1, and 11.1 actually has these new, it is called object-oriented hooks. So the way you define your hooks has changed. So the module hasn't been updated yet for the new hook way of doing things, but we can easily fix that up ourselves. So if we take a look at the actual module, so let's go to contrib, close this off, and go to events log tracker, submodules, and go to node. We will see that there are a bunch of hooks here. What is it? Hook node updates, hook node insert. Now, things have changed in Drupal 11.1. So as of 2 weeks ago, these hooks are no longer loaded. So what we're going to do is we're going to implement this ourselves, and then I'll show you this API stuff as well. So what you want to do is to implement your own hook object, go into your module, and you need to create a file under source, and then make sure it's in the hook namespace. So this means it'll automatically get loaded, and then you can call it whatever you want, node hooks.php or whatever you want. And what I would do right now quickly is just put in PHP and give it a namespace. There we go. And we want to probably pull in the interface and also use Drupal. No, let's pull in the core hook. And then let's call it attributes. And then I believe it's hook. There we go. Why not? And then let's give it a class name of, what is it? Node hooks. All right, perfect. And we're done. All right. So we've given it all of that. Let me just double check if that's all correct. I'm looking at my stuff here. All right. So the first implementation we are going to do is public function. What are we going to call this? Node insert. And then node insert. All right. Let's just, Copilot's getting a bit too excited there. All right. No. Sometimes you have to fight against it. Okay. So I've got that. Then what we need to do is, so at this point, we just have a method. Now we need to specify the actual hook part. So to do that, all we need to do, I believe, is put in this hook. And I want this to be node insert. There we go. Oh, node insert like that. All right, there we go. And now to implement this for update, it is as simple as update and update. And that's it. Now we need to test out and make sure this actually works. So let's go back here, clear the cache. Hopefully it's not going to fail. And if we click on a random page, everything is working. Great. Let's now double check this and see that our debugger is actually working. Let me put my debugger in there, put a listener on for no, actually, let's just do this on update. So I don't have to create a new piece of content. Here we have update. Come along in here. And then let's put in an updated. Is the listener on? Yes, it is. Yes, it's going to complain about that. That's okay. Save. And there we go. All right, it's coming through. So you can see here that our debugger has picked it up. So that means it is actually working. There is nothing more annoying than putting in a bunch of code and realizing that, well, the reason why it's not working is because you've implemented it wrong. But now we know that it is working. All right, cool. So that is that. Now, to get this to work, all we need to do is copy over some code. So for insert, we can add this in. So this is a event log insert. You can learn all about it here. And for update, we can just chuck this one in. There we go. And now if we go ahead, well, let's just refresh that. Update it again. Hit update. It's going to go ahead, update it. Well, nothing's failed. That's a win-win right there. And then if we refresh, we should see, here we go, node update. It's been updated. So there you have it. That is how you fix up that problem. Now, it would be good if somebody just goes ahead and actually creates a patch and fixes it up in the module. Because for Drupal, for Drupal 11.0, it's going to work, the submodule. But for 11.1, it won't. Anyway, so yeah, give it a go. Now, the other thing I want to mention before we move on to the last module is the configuration. So if we go into configuration right here, events log track, you've got a few options. You can delete the logs after a certain amount. So 30 days, which is probably a good idea. You can also set the batch size. You can also disable login to the database. So, if you want to use things like syslog, but then you do have this log CLI. So that means that if we clear the cache through Drush, it will actually log it. So let me demonstrate that. So right now, so let's take a look here. The top result is this node update. Now, if I come along in here, here we go, and do a Drush CR, which as a Drupal developer or as a site builder, you're going to get RSI from doing anyway, because it's the Drupal way. Nothing is being logged. You can see here that the top result here is just node, okay? Now, if we come along in here and log it and refresh, what's going to happen? Well, it will actually go ahead and, it's going to log our config change and our actual Drush CR. And so if you do use Drush a lot, especially with deployments and all that, and things like that, where you run config import, update DB and things like that, this might be a good way of just keeping track of what's happening during a deployment. Because there's nothing more annoying than also having config change whenever deployments run, and then a week later, somebody's like, "Why was this changed? Who changed this?" And it's like, well, I don't know. Drupal just randomly changes things. Now, one thing to be aware of is that you can't actually, and this is one thing I noticed using this module, is that there's no UI for truncating all of this data like you have for Watchdog. So the only way you can really do it is by just truncating it directly in the database. So there are a few ways of doing that. You can just do it the old-fashioned way by just logging on to MySQL, MariaDB, or Postgres, or whatever database backend you're using, and then just truncate the table yourself. That is a perfectly valid way of doing it. The other way is to use Drush. So what you can do is run this command using, so let me bring that up, Drush SQL queue, which is like just SQL query, and then just run truncate table. And this just allows you to run SQL queries. And this should work. Well, let's see if this actually works locally for me. So it may not work, but let's just give it a go. And no, that's because I haven't set up the MySQL properly locally. But what we can do, so let me just clear that, is we can go ahead and if I open up the database, so give me a moment. And if I go to here, yep, there we go. And if we search for event log, we can see it all here. And we can see our event logs right here. And it's more than okay to just go in there and truncate the table. Don't delete the table. You may get a few errors that way, but truncating is all right. So you can go ahead there and truncate it. And then if we head back here, refresh, we should see no events found. So there you go. So that is how you use the events log track. It's a great module. I've used it in the past. And it does a pretty good job. Like it is pretty basic with the UI, but you can do a lot with it. It gets the correct things right. Now let's take a look at Events Logger. Now this one is a little different. It's not as popular as the other one. And it also downloads a extra bunch of dependencies. So like token, well, let's go back there. Well, token, views data export, VBO, diff. To be fair, on a decent sized website, you will have token installed already. If you do any decent content editing, you will have VBO and you will have diff for seeing revisions. So maybe the views data export you may or may not have anyway, but just be aware of that. So what I'll do is before we do anything, let me just comment this out because I do know this will fail if I uninstall the module. And also want to uninstall the module. So let me just get in there, uninstall the submodules first, and then you quickly want to get in there and uninstall Events Log Track. All right. So once you're ready, go ahead and download it using Composer. Now I've already done that. And then go to Extend and search for Events Logger. And what we're going to do is enable, well, no, not that one. Scroll down, where is it? Search for Events Logger right there. Now, this module doesn't have any submodules. It just has the one module, so it's easier to install. You don't have to really think beforehand because sometimes when you do have a lot of submodules, it just adds that extra barrier where it's like, oh wait, which module do I use? And then sometimes, installing a combination of submodules just breaks your site. That's happened to me in the past. So we have here Events Logger and click on Install. You can see here straight away, it's going to install a bunch of dependencies. So make sure you click on Continue. and give that a moment to do its thing. Now it's going to download all of these translations. All right, so that is done. Now, if we go to reports, we should see events logs. And here you can see the actual events. You can search for them and you can also export them. That's why data views export is used. Now, if we could quickly just use it, so let me close that tab. And let's update this existing content. Another update. Go ahead, click on save. Then if we come back here and refresh, you do get this nice diff. Now, this I do actually like, being able to see this diff straight away from here is actually very, very useful. Now, of course, you can just go ahead and look in the revision section, but it is helpful to have this diff right here. If you go to configuration and then eLogger, here you can control the actual module. You can switch on a few modules that you want monitoring on, and you can also monitor things at a form level. Now, this is interesting because I don't think any other modules do that. So if you do have a custom module with a form in it and a custom form, you can actually track specific things and changes from that form. Then under log messages, configurations, you can go ahead here and just change the specific templates on what should be said in that message. You do have a bunch of options here. And then under settings and configuration, you can configure exactly how long you want the messages to stick around for. Again, don't leave it set to all. Maybe max it out at 10,000. You don't want to set it anymore, or you're going to be dealing with a 800 meg database. Now let's go back to filter configuration. So you do have these forms IDs. So this is where you can specify and get it to track a specific form ID. Now let's configure this so that it tracks the basic site information. So what we need to do is figure out the form ID. Now there are multiple ways of doing this. You can look at code, obviously, but the other way is to just go into the form and inspect it. So if you click on basic site settings, now this is the form, okay? We can go ahead and inspect. So let's do that. And let me bring this up. If we go here for search for form, we will see. Oh no, let me zoom, go up, up, up. Basic site, looking for the form. Here we go. Okay, so this is it. This is the actual form. Now the ID is this, but beware that when it's displayed on the front end, it does replace underscores with dashes. So right now we have system-site-information-settings. What we need to do is change this to underscores. So if we go back here and simply change it to underscores. Click on Save Configuration. And now if we refresh, well, can't spell. Put in here another test. Click on Save Configuration. It should track this change for us. And there you go. Does it do a diff? No, it doesn't. You can see here that it has tracked this change. Now, it doesn't tell you what's changed, but it's a simple way of tracking that particular change. Now, before we finish up, let me show you how to implement and track changes through its API. So if we take a look at the modules, let's close all of this off. Go to contrib, elogger, go to readme. You will see here a few examples. So here we can actually specify an event create log. So this will be useful if you have some type of API and you're pushing content in and you want to log when an event has happened. And here you have also an example of the actual login of a form. So what we're going to do is let's come along in here and implement, well, let's do it from the top down. And implement function, demo, no, pre-process, node. There we go. No, let's get rid of that. Cool. All right, so now we've implemented the pre-process node. And all we need to do is implement this. So I do know that variables node is the actual entity object. And we can verify that. Let's just double check that. Comment this stuff out. Variables. No. And if we go, so this is, what is it, node. So let me clear the cache. I won't turn on the watch debugger just yet. Go to the home page and throw that in. All right, let's go back here. Turn on the watchdog. Oh no, sorry. The listener. And that hasn't worked. Why not? Because I haven't put a debugger in. There we go. I haven't put a breakpoint. Let's do that again. Fresh. Got the breakpoint working. And we can straight away see that node. Here we go. Cool. You can see here that node is actually a node object. Perfect. So now all we need to do is pass in, close that off, remove that, and comment that out. And this should track. So if we come along in here, refresh, let's hit that a few times, and go to reports, event logs, we should see our, here we go, our actual message right here. And it takes us to the page. There you go. And so it's that easy to just throw in a bit of login to make sure your site is running perfectly. All right. So that is it for tonight. Let's just quickly do a recap of what we have covered. So we first looked at database login module, or as I like to call it, watchdog. That's the old school way. Well, it's kind of funny. Yeah, see here, it was like, this was previously called watchdog in Drupal, in Drupal 4 and 5. Well, that's nuts. All right, comment in YouTube. Debugging looks beautiful in PHP Storm. Yes, I do agree. And also, it's very easy in PHP Storm, not compared to VS Code. I don't want to rant against VS. Look, personally, I'm not against VS Code. I use it. I absolutely always use it. Like, it is my text editor of choice. But yeah, that's the thing that keeps me going back to PHP Storm, the debugging, because also it's pretty easy to set up. Well, no, VS Code is also pretty easy to set up as well, once you know. But of course, everything is easy once you know, of course, but it's the knowing of it that's hard. Okay, so yes, the DB log module, great module for logging things. It's in core, so that makes life a lot easier. Okay, so use it. And then you have events log track. This one's a popular one. It's used to log things. You can also, I believe, set it up with syslog, so it just goes straight in to syslog, and then from syslog you can have then other systems just pull in and send things to other services. And then you have events logger as well here, where that allows you to, or it's called e-logger for short, and and it adds a different UI and a different take on login. And there you have it. So let's then just finish it up. And so thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope you've learned a lot about login and things like that in Drupal. If you want to learn more about, well, Drupal and other CMSs, head over to webwash.net. And also, if you want to check out our other live streams, all of our recorded live streams for 2024, you can go head over to our YouTube channel and click on live. Now, this is actually the last stream for the year, of course, because next Friday, because I'm doing this on a Thursday, but next Friday, I think is the new year, right? Yeah, it should be. And one of my goals was to actually do a live stream every week this year. Now, I did skip a few weeks because I was moving continents. So it was a bit hard to stream when you pretty much don't have internet and don't have a desk to stream at. But other than that, I think it's over 20 something. I think it's over like, yeah, 20 something live streams. So you can check them all out if you go to our YouTube channel and click on live and you can see all of them over there. If you do have any ideas on other topics, please let me know. And I do thank the listener or watcher for mentioning about theming. That's a good one. But yeah, check them out over at YouTube. Anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. All right. All right, that was fun. Okay. All right, thanks for that. Very helpful. Also, love to see theming videos for what it's worth. Enjoy holidays and great. Yep, thanks for the vids. Yep, thanks. So here, Thursdays, 2020. Well, I'm not. Oh, so there's a comment. So 2025 Thursdays. I'm not sure if I'll switch it over to a Thursday. What are Thursdays or Fridays? What's easier for people? Thursdays or Fridays? For me, it's Fridays because there's always something on for me on Thursdays. And so there's more consistency if it is Fridays because there's less things happening for me on Fridays. Whereas if it is a Thursday, it might be a Thursday every now and then, but I prefer Thursdays. No, I've been meaning to do, this is now the post show, so we can just rant on about things. Now, I've been meaning to do one about theming. Yeah, especially Tailwind. What's the state of the Tailwind module anyway? Oh, sorry, theme. Drupal Tailwind. See, there are a few of them. Oh. All right. Oh, okay. Excuse me. Sorry. Really should have muted myself. Yeah, see, maybe implementing Tailwind from scratch will probably be a good idea. When it comes to, oh, well, thanks everyone. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, have a great 2024. But just when it comes to theming, what are the popular CSS frameworks these days? Or do people even write CSS by hand? I'm sure somebody's going to put a comment in on this video a year from now saying how, yes, that they use they articulately compose all their CSS from scratch. But I mean, what do the cool kids do these days? Bootstrap? No. Tailwind? Tailwind seems to be the thing, right? Because I'm thinking of developing a few like online SaaS applications using Drupal, and it's like, yeah, man, just use Tailwind for it, right? Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining, everyone. Have a great year. Enjoy yourselves. And yeah, there's no other questions. Let me have a look and see on the other socials. Been a bit quiet today, but that's to be expected. It is day after Christmas, or depending where you are in the world, it's either Boxing Day or some other public holiday, or insert or remove public holiday as needed. Or it used to be Boxing Day for me. Now I'm in a country that doesn't do Boxing Day. But yeah. Okay. Well, let's just leave it there. All right, cool. Thank you very much. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of 2024. And I'll see you in 2025. Well, 2025. Are we meant to have self-driving cars and be 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 on Mars by now? Anyway, let's hope. Bring on 2025. And also, yeah, bring on Drupal CMS, which is getting released 15th of January, which is going to be fun. I will be doing a live stream for that. I think I will be doing like a full live stream. I'll just leave the stream running and we're going to have some fun with that streaming. I have to actually see the limit of my restream, how long I can stream for. Must be like 10 hours or something. I'm not going to stream for that long. Or I'll have to pee. I have to go to the toilet and drink coffee. Oh no, maybe I'll have to put a few things in OBS where I can put a timer on or something. See, I haven't said that. OBS, I've been using it for years, but I never actually sat down and watched videos on the best plugins. There's a whole plugin system on it, but I've just learned enough to kind of understand it. Anyway, cool. Right, I'm ranting. I need to go.